G and Coach Zay.
Gotcha! Facing them on the red side, it's Fnatic. In the top lane, Whippo. In the jungle, Dan making his return. Mid laner, Nemesis, bot can be Reckless, and Mickey X with Coach Youngbuck.
Of course, Hill is saying there. All right, we figured it out. This is the atmosphere that we're in today.
Yeah.
We're uncertain if it's going to be dead serious or if it's going to be wild and trolly. So we'll mix it up. And Fnatic games, of course, are all about hard camping a single lane. And while the draft is not here yet, in the game of camp lane roulette, where are you expecting it to be, Azael? Where do they go?
See. Mid. They haven't gone mid yet.
That's true.
You know, mix it up. They did bot one game, top one game. All things being even, they should go mid lane.
Yeah, show us a variety of options.
Yeah, let Nemesis have some fun, right?
Big showing confidence. Of course, Dan on the stage. Going to be interesting to see his second game. We share a name, so I have high expectations for him.
He's
let
representing
me down.
Dan's everywhere.
Dan's
you know?
everywhere.
Yeah. Dan,
Yes! There's another Dan!
It's like, better not let me down.
What's up, Dan? There we go. That's what it's about. It's me, you, and the Dan in the audience, dear friend.
At least three.
At least three. And who's ever watching at home. And of course, have to see if TSM are going to be able to adapt. It has been a difficult tournament thus far, TSM for TSM, to put it softly. And I'm curious what level they're going to show us in this game.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully for them and for their fans, you know, they are going to be able to put up a better fight than they have in the first two games, where it has been, you know, two very one-sided affairs, you know, going the way of TSM's opponents. So certainly want to see them step up to the table here. We have seen what Fnatic likes to do, and I think that, you know, if you are going up against Fnatic here, you have to be ready for the camp. You have to be ready for the fact that if they come once, they're probably coming again and again and again, and you have to be able to actually respond to and play around that. I would also love to see if TSM is willing to kind of go a little bit more early game. There have been a lot of scaling picks that they have been going for, you know, things along the lines of the Ezreal, even the Akali, you know, a lot of slower drafts. Certainly they have some very talented soul laners. They have these guys who are capable of piloting these kind of aggressive picks, and I would like to see if TSM can be the ones to be ramping up the pressure here and really kind of, you know, put the shoe on the other foot. Try to put Fnatic on the defensive a little bit, who has such a strong early game.
And one person I'm always excited to see set foot onto the stage is Broken Blade. This is a guy that I love watching before he came to the LCS, and obviously has these huge pop-off moments. And he's up against a guy like Whippo, and both these guys have had incredible, insane, game-changing performances. Yes, they've also had their fumbles, but if they're not going to go mid lane, top lane is my second choice, just because I love the solo carry options that can be played there. Probably not going to see a Riven game, but God, I want a Riven game, Azael. So I'm hopeful for something crazy, hopeful for something wild in this draft, and for TSM to really mix it up.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you're also hoping that Acadian can have a strong game here. You know, looking to really be able to kind of prove himself on the stage here. You know, internationally, going up against Fnatic, who is undefeated still, not only at Rift Rivals but in the LEC. You know, if you're counting both those games, they're 8-0 essentially so far this split. You know, playing very, very well, and you know, being the first team to have taken them down would feel really good for TSM, and also just getting a win, you know, not only for themselves, but for their region. TL, the only team to have grabbed wins thus far for North America. And TSM, you know, they had TL pushed to the brink in the spring finals, right? They got reverse swept. They want to be on that same level, you know, on that same stage, competing with the very best. They certainly have international aspirations. So you have to be able to show that you can compete with these top level teams if you want to realistically be able to have that great performance that they're striving for at Worlds.
Absolutely, and I think that a lot of that can start here. It does not have to wait for the next week of the LCS. Can start to turn things around. Hand warmers being handed to Whippo as he gets ready. You can see his focused face. It's time. Maybe feeling the pressure a bit. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what to expect from TSM, and as a much more casual viewer of the LCS than I have been in the past, as of course as a catcher of the LEC, I do want to see them ramp up, because they're such a legacy org, and they've had such high highs, and also as someone who's cast so much Sven in my career, I want to see the old pop-off, take control of a game Sven, and it feels like he only does that when that's what the meta tells him to do, and I think that this tournament has showed us that the meta's a little more open to interpretation than a lot of teams are willing to let it be.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a monstrously strong bot lane player. You know, we know he can play all those, you know, mechanically demanding carries as well. He has an incredible Lucian. He certainly, you know, is capable of piloting all those sorts of champions. And slight delay on the stage, as Hill is saying. We're just waiting for him to be able to get into the game. I believe had a slight error with the client, something along those lines. So shouldn't be too long, and then we'll be heading into picks and bans. But Yeah, I think really the question on everyone's mind is, will TSM go earlier game? Because that had been what they were doing in spring. That had been what everyone was praising them for. This run towards playoffs, for TSM was incredibly dominant. They had won something like 9-10 games in a row. They played very well in playoffs, very aggressively. And then it seems that whether it's their read on the meta or whether it is, something else that is changing behind the scenes, they're certainly looking very different than they did in spring. Still having a strong split, I would say, overall in summer, but not as dominant, not, really, I think, meeting up to those really, really high expectations that the fans have had of them and that they have of themselves.
Definitely the case, and I think that it's interesting because heard from Xmithy after that game, hey, we're learning a lot while we're playing here, hoping, helping us ramp up, helping us learn more, and it's going to be interesting to see what TSM has learned in their last 2 games about what will and what won't work for them. Obviously have played Grig in 1 game. This is now the 2nd game for Acadian, and we are going into pick and ban, folks. And immediately, Pyke is going to get taken off the table. Hylissang, of course, one of the great Pikes in EU. Good to see it taken out of his hands. Yeah,
going to be banning that away. Karma, no surprise seeing that on the ban table here against TSM. But the question I think on everyone's mind really is just what are the North American teams learning from this? We've seen in the past, back at the first Rift Rivals where North America was actually winning. Europe then went back and learned so much, I think, from the mid-jungle style that NA was playing. Will these North American teams be able to start kind of picking up on all the flex pick and the aggressive play that I think the LEC teams have really showcased to great effect? And I think a lot of that onus is going to be on bot laners, right? To be able to show that they have the flexibility to not just play marksman, but to play these different styles of picks and even play them in the different lanes.
And this is only really the 2nd time we've been able to say that. It was the mage meta back when mages were incredibly powerful, things like Swain on the bottom side of the map, and now with the creativity that we're seeing coming out of the LEC, and already Fnatic limiting some of the less aggressive picks, some of the more sit back and scale sort of options in the Sona. Sejuani also taken off the board, and a lot of the engage and map movement options taken off of the TF and the Pyke. And see what TSM want a first pick here. Of course, a happy hover over on the Zed, but it will be the Yuumi locked in the end.
All right, so Yuumi going to get grabbed up. Did not work out for them yesterday when they did play it. They were ganked early and often, punished very heavily by OG, who ran that Pyke lane, who level 2 ganked him with the Sejuani. It was non-stop focus on Sven and Smoothie. But something along the lines of Yuumi Sivir is extremely popular in NA. Wouldn't be surprised to see them grab that if Fnatic does not elect to take it away. And Reckless, also an excellent Sivir player. Would not be surprised to see that as a takeaway and also as a denial. So going to be feeling pretty good about these first 2 picks. Aatrox also extremely high priority. Likely going to be going up to Bwipo in that top lane.
And one of the premier comfort picks for Bwipo as well. So both Reckless and Bwipo very comfortable in the draft thus far. Curious to see what Dan is going to go for. We've only seen his Jarvan thus far on this stage. What is going to be the next backup option? And I'm going to be honest, I would be excited to see this. It is now locked in. Of course, has the potential to be flexed into the mid lane, but a much more aggressive bot lane.
So we did see one of these drafts actually when TSM got this, and what they did was actually kind of this speed up Lucian comp, where I want to say they were playing with Zilean, if I'm recalling correctly. And Sven had an absolute pop-off game with the Lucian plus the Yuumi. I believe it was a Zilean as well. And it was Sven like flying into the fights at light speed, being able to actually take down their opponents. Aurelia, another very high priority pick. This one certainly could be flexed, but more likely to be going mid lane. That is certainly where it has been played most these days in NA. So Bjergsen may be grabbing that pick, and it will be the Rek'Sai here looking like for Dan.
All right, so yet another jungler that can be quite proactive in the early game. We'll see if he wants to go for the Hail of Blades and just try to capitalize on early game strength. And they're going to start to limit the jungle pool immediately on the side of Fnatic. Do not want to see the Skarner. May see another jungler banned away as well. And I'm curious if Fnatic, if we're going to see them swap again. We have, of course, seen them use the Shen to counter the Aatrox mid lane matchup. They've been very willing to send Nemesis onto the top side of the map, to send Bwipo into the mid lane, not swapping in champ select, but of course swapping in game. And Rakan taken away from Hylissang. A good choice, honestly. Anytime you can get Hylissang off of a playmaking engaged support, he is just a much weaker player, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that just shows so much respect over to Hylissang. There's not a lot of support players you're going to ban Rakan against. If there's already a different AD than Xayah picked, right? That's usually the only time you see attention to this pick, but Hylissang's such a good player on Rakan that even alongside Sivir, people feeling it is worth banning away. Certainly some jungle targeting being done here. Hecarim Zilean, is possible for TSM. That is what this kind of Yuumi Lucian was actually paired up with last time, so it was in fact Zillion. They did play with Kennen top, so a little bit of a difference there. But there is the possibility of a similar kind of style of composition along those lines that would be much more of a scaling coming out of your mid lane and jungle though. Going up against Rek'Sai, that could be pretty frightening. We know that Rek'Sai is a beast early game. Aatrox certainly has a lot of early laning power as well, so they could go for a more aggressive option. Acadian certainly a very strong player of a lot of aggressive picks. That's really how he made his name for himself coming onto the scene, playing a lot of things along the lines of the Lee Sin, the Kha'Zix, these types of picks.
But now, of course, we see the Lux band away, very standard for that to be paired with the Sivir, incredibly powerful meta bot lane, but the Nautilus will be picked up. This is something that's been kind of falling away in priority recently, but of course can still be very powerful. And you talk about aggressive early junglers, Azael, might just have an Elise on her hands.
So as funny as it is, when they played the Lucian Yuumi bot lane, they actually played against Sivir Nautilus. It was this exact bot lane. So it's the run back. And Nautilus was thought of as one of the early counters to Yuumi because of the hard engage. Now, the answer that TSM used in that series, and the answer that a lot of players have been using, is actually forego the TP and triple defensive summon. So you actually run Barrier on the Lucian, and you can run Exhaust and Heal on the Yuumi, and then for that all-in, you have 3 defensive summoners. And if that all-in does get failed, you can then start to take over the lane through poke and through the kind of return harass. We'll see if they do elect to run that style, or if they're going to forego the Barrier, because this is, perhaps something that they feel they can withstand, but definitely have to be worried about the power of that all-in, especially alongside the Rek'Sai, who's going to be a strong early jungler. So looking like Corki mid, I think that makes a lot of sense here, grabbing some AP into the composition, nice scaling pick. Fnatic looking like they have a splash of early game here with the Aatrox, as well as that Rek'Sai. They have powerful engage alongside this Nautilus, but the late game is also pretty secure when you have a Sivir and a Corki who are going to be scaling really well all the way up to 6 items.
And honestly, this is a textbook Fnatic draft. You've got playmaking for Hylissang, you have a comfortable mid lane pick up for Nemesis, Reckless on comfort champions. Well, it's really comfort across the board. Obviously, you would prefer to Pike if you're a big Hylissang fan, but the Nautilus is still quite good. And not getting a lot of respect over to TSM despite the O2 stars that they've had, drafting something that just looks to be pure comfort for them. And on the opposite side for TSM, you've got early proactive playmaker for Acadian. You talked about how crucial that could be for the team, as well as the potential power of the Yuumi Lucian bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, and to TSM's credit, this does not feel like a draft where they're saying, yep, let's just sit back and go late. This feels like they want to be more aggressive. You have the Elise who wants to get out on the map, who wants to dominate, be repeat ganking nonstop, match that pressure, if not even overcome it, that the Rek'Sai has. And then you have this Aurelia and Nico, 2 very powerful solo laners who really do turn online at 6. The all-in potential can be very powerful there alongside a Rek'Sai, or rather alongside that Elise. So I'm going to be really interested to see how they do pull this off. But it is TP on the Lucian, so not going to have the barrier. And as a result, Sven will be much more susceptible to that all-in, especially if Dan does make a trip down to that bottom lane. And I think you would be wanting to focus wherever the Nautilus is, because Nautilus has such incredible gank assistance. So we'll have to see how TSM can actually play around that. Will Acadian be able to match gank for gank with Dan playing this Rek'Sai?
And that is the question as we head into our final game of the first stage. TSM fans alive in the studio tonight. I've got my eyes on the mid lane as well. We've seen it in the hands of G2, but the power of Elise, Aurelia, if you can ever land the Cocoon, the Chain CC. Corki, not a champion who wants to get behind early, has the luxury of going for the Kleptomancy in this matchup. So very focused, not on necessarily early trading, but more on scaling up, getting a bit more gold under his belt, getting that fast Trinity Force.
Yeah, so he's going to be trying to rush towards that, maximizing income here with the Klepto against this Aurelia. We'll have to see exactly how the TSM wants to play out this bottom lane. I do think that is where so much of the action can be expected to be. Fnatic may throw a curveball, but this is something that they could look to abuse. And TSM did not go for the maximum possible defense. And if you're able to survive without the barrier, then teleport is great. It's going to give you more tempo in this lane. It's going to allow you to kind of continue battling back with the Sivir, who is going to be playing TP, who is going to try to keep you under your turret. We know that's the style that Reckless has always loved to play throughout his career, not only on the Sivir, but on things like the Tristana as well. So they are going to be trying to match that and just praying that they can kind of withstand any potential all-in.
A little bit of damage being traded down. Ability fired will still get the double Klepto stacks. But going through for now. Mid lane, not necessarily where we keep our attention. Level 2, of course, could be important if someone's able to grab it first, but bot lane, much more set up for action early on. Lucian should be quite strong. Cat, not the scariest at level 1, but level 3 and a few more points could happen, and missing that dredge line, crucial. Clearly Sven, very comfortable in the Yuumi setup, Smoothie as well, stepping forward just enough to connect there on the Prowling projectile.
Yeah, and these are two guys who actually play, a lot of solo queue and practice these sorts of things as well. Sven certainly known as a really big grinder, someone who always is putting in the games to learn, not only his champion, but also kind of how best to play with some of the supports. And that's something I think that is incredibly important with Yuumi, understanding the rage on that queue and being able to play best around that to kind of enable, Yuumi, especially with this Comet setup, which is so prioritizing hitting that queue. To really succeed.
And really the only option there to find the proc until the ultimate is available. And in the mid lane, Corki, no surprise, a little bit more control over the wave with the power to get a little bit more AoE down. But Bjergsen can constantly threaten fully stacked passive, something you always have to be a bit scared of. And in the top lane, range advantage for the Nico as well as the Glacial Augment, making it very difficult for Bwipo to approach the wave. Has already been shoved in.
Yeah, Bwipo is just going to accept that it's going to push in and then look to try to farm up as much as he can. You can see actually it's Acadian heading up to this top side, so at least one of the best divers in the game. They may try to push Bwipo off of this lane. They're going to look for this dive.
Have to be careful though. Flash out. The Cocoon not going to connect as well. Acadian just going to be able to walk out of that one. Bit of a fumble there, but at the end, they do get the flash.
No, they can just reset. This is actually perfect. You reset, the wave is still there. Now you started up with no flash on him. Acadian needs to start the dive, though, so he can repel the aggro off. Oh, no.
Oh, that's not what you want to see. The lockdown is still there, however. The flash out. Bwipo's still alive.
Yeah, that is definitely a botch. They could try to go for it one more time, but if you fail now...
Forms, goes in the air. First blood comes through. Broken Blade.
That
is going to get taken down in the end. A 1-for-1.
Yeah, definitely not what you want when you're investing that much time and both of your flashes into it. Katie and that Cocoon straight into the minion. Dan now here looking to set up a potential dive on this bottom side, at least threatening it. Not sure that they'll go for it, though. Would be difficult with Sven playing around this turret and the double defensive summoners.
Well played by Smoothie there on the Prime projectile. We'll look back at this one. And
yeah, this is just something that you need to have Acadian getting the aggro first. And that is a minion that was there. It didn't move. I mean, he does actually pull the aggro. They do, thankfully, end up getting the first blood, so that is at least something going for them. The repel does reset that threat, but Broken Blade already had blown his flash, so it does go down, and Bwipo not impressed with the play there.
2 Cocoons missed, one of course flashed away from, but a bit unfortunate there. Maybe a bit of nerves on stage for Acadian. Obviously a decently high pressure game as TSM does need to find a win.
But I mean, that is something that they really want to execute on, right? You're investing in the Elise for that sort of play. You need to be able to execute on it. And the difference between giving that kill over or not is so massive, because without that kill, Bwipo essentially has to come back to lane with no buy, right? Maybe he gets just the refillable, but with that, he's actually not sitting in too bad a position. And now with Dan up here, there is the chance to push this out and try to shove Broken Blade back.
Chains come in. Good bit of damage now. Bwipo feeling a lot more confident. Early MR make things a bit easier, but the cooldowns are still so incredibly long that Broken Blade very wisely just goes in for the punish there, knowing that there's really no chance for Bwipo to respond.
Yeah, you can see Acadian kind of setting up shop here over on the right side of the map, and now looking for Nemesis.
Sun does connect as he's flying for the air. Acadian has hit the Cocoon. Doesn't even need to. Bjergsen, that damage coming in from the Aurelia.
Yeah, Bjergsen pretty much is getting a solo kill there. Acadian not much involvement at all. Does grab the assist, but let's watch this one more time as Nemesis getting punished very heavily. Bjergsen going straight in, connects the stun, reset onto that Valkyrie. I think it was just one auto maybe from Acadian to get that assist, but Bjergsen just mopping up Nemesis there, grabbing a solo kill and putting them in a pretty good spot thus far.
Everyone's got to respect the potential that really come in, but the tunnel was not taken away. But we're now going to use the ultimate immediately. Broken Blade just deleted off the face of the map.
Yeah, Broken Blade not even able to get his ultimate off there, and the wave is actually in a really bad spot for him. Bjergsen going to have to reset. Did want to push this in, but that wave pushing towards Bwipo, you'll notice he just went back to base, knowing that the wave will be stacking and kind of pushing towards him. So it is actually going to be the TP back from Broken Blade. He will have to expend this to try to shove it in, which may trigger Dan to come up here and try to grab some of this farm. Because Bwipo is without his teleport, and here this is one more time. The tunnel was actually never cleared up by Broken Blade, so Dan able to take in the previous tunnel, then use the secondary tunnel to get right on top of Broken Blade, and just makes the call that he's going to go down either way, so not dropping the ultimate, and will hang on to that. They are looking for a bit of an invade here, though. Broken Blade and Acadian moving in. Dan has spotted them with the Tremor Sense, so we'll see if Fnatic even wants to contest. I think they're just going to give it over, though.
Don't really want to risk this one. Fires in with the Prey Seeker. Will connect on the Broken Blade, but the red buff in the end will go over to Acadian there. So good steal, good use of the pressure that they have in the mid and top lanes from the side of TSM. And just checking in across the board right now, obviously a decent CS lead for Broken Blade on the top side of the map, but Bwipo with the kills will bounce out the gold to a good degree. And Boots 2 very early on, not hugely surprising to see once you're able to get in and out of those trades.
And also, I mean, I think the tenacity is so hugely important, not only for the Tangle Bars, but also the Cocoon. There's the Aurelia stun. There's a lot of CC that could be coming across here from really anyone who be visiting up to that lane. Thus far, pretty even on this bottom side. You know, Hillsang certainly not able to find any type of all-in, but at the same time, you have a Sivir farming, so you're not feeling super pressured. Dan, though, making his way down here. Hillsang getting low.
Looks like he oversteps the Ricochet, doing a lot of damage here. Dan's still only level 5, however. It'll be hard for him to do anything like reset tower aggro without that ulti. Acadian on the way bottom, though. Suddenly Sven very much in trouble. The Cocoon does go in. Hillsang going to get immediately deleted, and Dan just left throwing out random auto attacks. Does not really have any follow-up here.
Yeah, those defensive summoners coming in big for TSM. The Exhaust really trying to help out there as Acadian showed up right place, right time. That was an important counter gank for Acadian. Needed to get this one back. They do see Hillsang in the area. In comes Dan, but Acadian is already here. Nails that Cocoon, and Hillsang goes down without even being able to flash. And now Acadian chasing Dan back to his jungle, but Broken Blade in some trouble.
Ooh, looking a lot more confident as Acadian. Broken Blade, though, has to be careful. I like that every time Bwipo burns the full combo, that Broken Blade is not afraid to step forward and trade. Does have to give him a bit of respect here, though.
Yeah, especially because Bwipo still has flash, so you always have to be scared of that third Q, especially when that is ready for the third Q flash, especially if Deathbringer stance is active. Can be a lot of burst there. Bwipo, you know, starting to really kind of get control of this lane, you know, thanks to some help from Dan. Also the mixed execution and great play from Bwipo in those early situations.
Pearson, though, once again going in, has the passive fully stacked, will go right back out. Bwipo is going to ult here. Pop Blossom, find the knock, but of course a good amount of tenacity means it does not last that long. Does force the flash in the end, but it's just a flash for flash trade. Nemesis, however, in trouble, will use the package. Dan will make it out with the tunnel. And a lot of very close exchanges, but no one's actually going to drop in the end.
Yeah, Bwipo actually using his flash, I think, after we went away. I didn't see him use the flash in the initial play, so maybe tried to flash back in for something else. I'm not sure if I missed that, but either way, some pressure back and forth on the top side. Junglers likely will be getting called up to that top lane as both of these guys have no ultimate, no flash, certainly could be preyed upon by a potential gank. And Nemesis, at this point, just trying to withstand the matchup, wants to farm it out, continue proccing that Klepto, getting as much gold as possible here. And Acadian and Dan trying to hover around that mid lane a little bit to keep their mid laners feeling safe. Dan now back to that bottom lane here again, though, playing around the Nautilus as expected. And you have level 6 on Hillsang as well as Dan now, so the potential for a turret dive is certainly there, especially when Hillsang has that Ignite available, but they don't have eyes on Acadian, so that does make it very dangerous to go for, and I think they're just going to elect to try to go over to this Dragon instead.
Yeah, but pressure on the mid lane as well means it's quite an easy decision to rotate over. Just not enough members currently on the map for the side of TSM, as Acadian did opt to reset. TP as well for Bwipo, an advantage he built earlier, putting that wave in an unfortunate situation for the side of Broken Blade. So well played in the end to get this. It will be spotted out by TSM, though, so they do know the score. The vision is there. Now it's just going to be the recall for the Rek'Sai as Bjergsen will take back control of the mid lane. We'll see what TSM want to do with it.
Yep, going to be able to shove this in. Certainly the right call from TSM to just give that one up. They're going to try to play through the top side, grab the Rift. This is all in.
A lot of damage coming in. Goes Golden. Yuumi, though, not able to take any damage there in exchange. Nautilus not actually ulting despite appearances otherwise.
OTP.
Sven potentially in trouble. TP on the backside. Sven now needs to run. The hook is going to connect. Smoothie needs to get out of there. Bwipo going in for one. Smoothie, there's no disengaged tools left. Can he get out there? The zoomies, I don't think they're going to be enough. Bwipo going to fish for it. The lockup is there. Big damage onto the cat, and Bwipo's going to grab the double.
Bwipo sitting at 4-1 now. Great TP from him, really punishing TSM for this chase. They get the 2v2 kill, which is awesome, but going to be punished very heavily. You can see, though, that Broken Blade at the very least will be taking turret plates on that top side, so getting him some gold back for himself. Sven TPing back down here, but Hylissang is around, and remember, that TP works doubly.
Oh no, Sven did not want to go right back into that meat grinder. Blippo with the ulti up, Sven gets taken out, Smoothie is next, the lockup is there. Are you kidding me? That was not what TSM needed. Fnatic find another 2 kills.
Yeah, they did not expect that Hylissang was still around. They both die, teleport back in, immediately die again. TSM will get first turret. So gold's still in their favor despite that, but certainly not a good look for TSM's bot lane. 4 quick deaths for them. And Bwipo coming out as the huge beneficiary of that one. 5 kills now. He's sitting at 5 and 1. He's way ahead, actually, even of the top lane gold, despite all those turret plates.
Massive. And of course, the top lane play is good, but Reckless is in an advantageous state. He does get to pick up all that CS left there, and we can take a look at it one more time. Lockup looks initially a little grim. Lasagnas does come out.
Yeah, this was a great stopwatch. Utilizing the stopwatch to actually immune the Nautilus ult. That is a graphical error. But, you know, they can see the counter engage. As Nautilus goes forward for the hook, stopwatch comes out, Smoothie lands the ultimate root. But then the TP from Bwipo coming in from behind. They get the kill. Bwipo sticking around. They're saying, oh, it's just him. Let's chase him down. Unfortunately, getting way too brazen. Hylissang with the long con waiting in the brush here. They get the kill. They get the reset and grab a second. And Bwipo now has an entire black cleaver.
It's going to be a lot more difficult for Sven. Of course, has the luxury of the dash, but needs to be respectful. Bwipo, though, still one item for Sven as well, the Blade of the Rune King, letting him trade back very effectively and match some of the sustain the Aatrox has.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not going to win that 1v2, and Acadian now making his way down to this bottom side of the map. You can see that his Broken Blade with his Sven cosplay is going to be having to likewise back off on the top lane. He knows when all your members are bot side, all their members are top side, you don't get to farm. So he will be just kind of moving into his jungle, trying to grab something there as TSM will race for these turrets. We'll see who will kind of call chicken first and back off to try to defend, but it looks like it should be a one-for-one trade.
And really a fight for the plates here right now. Of course, the 4th and 5th can be a little bit harder to take, but TSM starting to break through. The more members they put here, the more resistance it'll have. So this might take longer as the wave is going to die out. A new one now coming in. They're going to give the last of this to Reckless. 15 seconds before the plates expire. He should be able to grab this one. And a lot more gold into the back pocket of the Sivir. But now Nemesis coming in. Uses the power of the package. Then potentially caught out here. Bwipo, though.
Here comes Bjergsen.
Moving forward. Where is Bjergsen going to go? Ulti is up available.
Yeah, they have 5
there. This might be a bit of an overstay. Bwipo trying to find something, but there's the flash. Coon Acadian does go down, though, in the exchange. Still a great dive by TSM. Acadian, though, maybe not the best play in that exchange.
Yeah, Hylissang and Dan making their way down here, but they still got to be careful. These are multiple solo laners here from TSM. This is not a fight that they could likely win out on, so you know, they are going to have Reckless just shoving up that mid lane. It was a good trade kill back, taking down Acadian, but certainly still a positive play for TSM, and nice to see them looking to make those aggressive plays, looking to try to match Fnatic blow for blow. And here it is one more time. Bwipo feeling confident to be able to make this happen when the package has arrived. A good repel initially there from Acadian, running out, utilizing this Yuumi ultimate to disengage, but then you can see Broken Blade, Bjergsen arriving, and they do look for the dive. Ultimate connects on 2. Acadian flashing in for the cocoon. Sacrificial lamb for the team there. Maybe could have allowed someone at higher health to actually pick up aggro first and try to protect his life, but still, great play, and they do get the turret too.
And at the end of the day, we look at the gold just across the board. TSM now with more than a 1K gold lead as well as a tower advantage, so things are looking quite good for this team. You're still fighting against a Sivir and a Corki, so you may want to up the tempo a bit more, but it's not like you're going to get completely and totally outscaled as we move later in the game.
Yeah, definitely the case, and I mean, there is some really good team fighting here still from the side of TSM, some powerful AoE coming through, you know, when you're looking at things like the Yuumi ultimate as well as Aurelia and the Nico kind of flying in there, that can be pretty powerful. That being said, the engage on the side of Fnatic certainly much more reliable when you do have the Nautilus, and having multiple frontliners here for these 2 super scaling marksmen is going to make it an easier team fight to execute.
Oh, the flash from the wall, Hylissang spots him in his sights, but now final chapter is going to come out by a bit more time. Dan has been deleted. Hylissang is next on the list. Fnatic fighting off more than they can chew, and now they're going to be forced to retreat, just running kills into TSM.
And Smoothie with such a great Yuumi ultimate, they're turning it around, and now they're looking for more.
Stun is going to go down. They're baiting. They're buying a little bit more time. Has a few more seconds on the reset there on the Blade Surge. Will not opt to take it. TSM doing good, continuing to extend this goal lead. Now 2K in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, if you fail the all-in against Yuumi, you are going to get rooted up, and then the turnaround can come out, can be very, very powerful. the zoomies, the healing, the shielding, everything coming through. So they see this pick for Sven. Hylissang says, all right, we're going for it. Flashes in. But look at this ultimate across all of Fnatic there, rooting them up. Then the Tangle Bards is an easy follow-up to repel from Acadian to buy time. And the rest of TSM can come through to protect him. Acadian barely surviving that final rocket. But TSM able to grab themselves a couple kills and the dragon to boot.
And of course, for Hylissang, it's a classic Hylissang moment. He has the brilliant plays where he waits in the brush, trying to prey on kind of enemy habits or intentions, using the TP there on the bottom side. And then you also have these moments where he's a little over-aggressive. He gets some blood in his eyes, and all he can see are those kills, those pick opportunities, and takes too big of a risk.
Well, and I think those are the plays you have to be okay with when you want to try to ask for this aggressive style, right? When we're talking about, all right, you need to take those 60-40s, have faith in your ability to do it. Well, it's not 100-0, right? It's a 60-40. There are these plays that this is an opportunity where he says, Zen is separated, that's the carry, let's burst him down. Almost works, doesn't, but it's not a reason for Fnatic to then back off from those aggressive plays, and that's something that we've seen them, certainly not shy away from, trying to just go right back at their opponents if something doesn't work out, and trusting that it will work out that second time around.
See, first time has been working good for him. Obviously, the 6-2 Aatrox, very strong point in the team. 24 now finished for the Corki Sivir, very steadily working towards that second item, but TSM clearly in control of the map at this stage of the game as they do barrel down the mid lane, look to break that first tier 1. Not quite there yet. Fnatic, wherever the player are trying to group up, but the ward not spotted by Dan as he was tunneled in. Oh, well, now go over. Good input buffer there, but needs to be careful walking into no man's land. It's actually Acadian who's been deletes him. Hey, Magic Pen Elise, pretty strong.
Yeah, Dan is very squishy. Just has the MR from his Merc Treads, no HP in the build whatsoever, and he gets shredded there by Acadian, flexing his muscles in the jungle here. TSM, that's a big pick for them because it's buying them more pressure around this mid lane while they have their solos out in the side lanes pushing. They're going to look to try to take control of the map from this.
Ooh, now Whipple's actually the one in trouble. He's not going to be able to get out. Does not get the free revive anymore, and TSM are just tearing Fnatic apart.
Yeah, that one was way too bold for Whipple. Your jungler just died. You're down a member there, and they walk in for the fight anyway. TSM now can look to knock down this turret. Broken Blade is knocking down the tier 2 in the bottom side. Will not be able to kill up, but will get some damage down, and TSM, a couple of nice kills, getting control of this map, and we'll see if Broken Blade does overstay because Dan and Nemesis are both here, but we have to remember, Dan is so far behind.
He's level 8.
He's lower level than the Yuumi, lower level than his support. He's 3 levels down on Acadian, so he is exceptionally weak right now, and this is maybe more okay, not that it's great, if you're like a Trundle with a Knight's Vow or something. This is a Warrior Rek'Sai, right? Like, you're supposed to be the powerful early game farmer who's in their face. He's nearly 3,000 gold behind Acadian now. Acadian is really starting to run over Dan in this game, sitting at 217, Dan only managing to be involved in the 1 assist. Certainly, having a bit of a rougher game his second go on this international stage.
And of course, the Jarvan game was pretty solid in his first performance. They did take that away on the side of TSM, so maybe not quite as comfortable on the Rek'Sai, and definitely not as comfortable in this game as we can see. And Acadian, easy to be critical of him after dying on the bot side as well as fumbling the top side dive, but has stepped it up outside of those 1 or 2 instances and has been actually very dominant in this game.
I mean, again, when we're asking for aggressive plays, they're not all going to be perfect, right? And Acadian certainly did, mis-execute on that dive on the top side, but he's played a great game besides that. He has been in the right place at the right time with the counter ganks. He's been heavily out farming his opponent. He's now playing in Dan's face, and with these 2 completed items plus the sword boots, you are a legitimate threat to 100-0 the Corki, the Sivir, like a lot of these players. So you have to stand up and take notice on the side of Fnatic. This is an additional AP threat at this point in the game that he can really take someone down if you misstep.
And honestly, I think it's good that you bring up aggressive playstyle because I feel like for TSM, with the Sivir and the Corki only getting stronger as the game goes on, onus is kind of on them to continue to be aggressive, to continue to find these opportunities, and to extend the very solid gold advantage that they've built up for themselves. Now 3K, I feel like every time we check in, they have another 1,000 gold advantage in their pocket.
Yeah, and the question now is, everything has looked great for TSM thus far. This is the TSM that people loved from spring. This is the TSM that people have been wanting to see in summer. Can you close out the game? That is the question on everyone's mind, because this gold lead, while great, sitting just under 3,000, it is not enough to guarantee you a win. You've got to keep pushing the pace. You've got to keep pressuring Fnatic here, who are looking to scale and become monstrously strong later on.
Now see if Sven has isolated himself. There's going to back off immediately. You have to remember, it was Jensen who overstayed at the tier 2 in the mid lane, got killed, and instantly the game turned in Fnatic's favor. But Broken Blade just getting another advantage on the bottom side. Everything's working out for TSM in the end.
Yeah, they're able to get the disengage, and Whippo
far forward. Step forward, is they're going to have enough to get advantage. The Pop Blossom, but they're not going to get it. He gets instantly popped there, but Acadian will grab one right back.
Yeah, that would have been a great play from Broken Blade, except he didn't use his Zonias, unfortunately. He wanted to go for the Pop Blossom Zonias to be able to actually continue that channel during it. May have got stunned up when he was trying to hit that. I didn't actually see if something did hit him. Either way, they still do get a kill. He trades his life. It could have been better for TSM, but it's not the worst. And again, this is the kind of thing you have to be okay with if you want this aggressive play. So in he goes. I think he just got straight up burst down. Didn't expect the damage. Maybe there was a knockup from Dan that I couldn't quite see as there was a lot of players kind of overlapping there.
A lot of particles going on there.
But either way, does get knocked down. They do get the kill on Nemesis. They do get the kill on the Dragon as well. So TSM overall still going to be pretty happy with the play. Maintaining that 3,000 gold advantage. Getting another Dragon under their belt.
Things look good. Dan, of course, continuing to get scarier and scarier. Reckless with 2 items as well, but it's also a 2-item Lucian. It's a 2-item Nico on the top side of the map. Whippo has not quite had the same explosive mid game that he did in the early game, and while he is a terror with all that CDR, with the Death Stance, really hasn't been able to utilize it. TSM just keeps bursting him before he can do anything.
Yeah, has not been able to make the most of it, certainly, but that Corki is scaling. Essence Reaver plus Triforce is a really powerful build that is going to set up yourself well to go towards, IE, Rapid Fire, be sitting near that 100% crit rate. You can be incredibly strong with this type of build. You're on 40% CDR, so your poke is a lot stronger. With the Essence Reaver, you never have to worry about running out of mana whatsoever. And this is really kind of eyes towards the late game for Nemesis, as well as Reckless, who is working towards that IE. 3 items is always the kind of point in the game that I like to talk about Sivir starting to really get strong. Once you have attack speed, you have a lot of AD with the IER, the ricochets can start to become a really, really big threat for a lot of these squishy members over on TSM. A stray ricochet or two hitting the Elise, and you can be very low on health.
Speaking of hitting the Elise, Acadian has now been caught out. He will go up, but TSM is now advancing forward. Control Ward will give him a route out to safety and stop the play in its tracks.
Yeah, nicely done. TSM now, though, need to get some forward vision, right? If you're going to try to play the game through the 1-3-1, I want to see them clearing out these wards, getting some wards down, and that is, it looks like, what they are trying to do at this point. 3 wards now dropped here on this bottom side. This is kind of trying to give protection in this area for Bjergsen. And
now in trouble, just immediately going to get popped up. Will he get deleted in the process? Still alive. The aftershock keeping him healthy. Not going to go in the bulk. Probably projectile will not connect. Cetadian now on the retreat. Bjergsen trying to turn, and they're in the pinch. Broken Blade on the way in, but he's taking so much damage. Has his Zonias, does get pulled back, but they'll just grab Dan and walk away happy.
Yeah, that TP coming in from Broken Blade, you have to respect that if you're Fnatic, because the Pop Blossom Zonias is ready. And TSM pushing forward here, looking to knock down this turret.
Breaking it, the ulti does not connect, however. Bjergsen has to back off, but it does force Fnatic away while they break the tier 2 tower.
And now we may see TSM try to move that vision over towards the Baron area. We are 24 minutes into the game. They knock down the last of the outers here in that bottom lane. Cracking that inhibitor turret, I think, will be very, very difficult with the wave clear that Fnatic has. So I think we have to see TSM continue to push forward, now focus around the top lane, look for that tier 2 outer, try to get vision in and around the Baron pit, and force Fnatic to try to take a fight that they are not necessarily ready for right now.
Good call overall. See if they can find the opportunity to do so. Bjergsen only getting scarier, so picks the BF sword as well. Potentially the Spooky Ghost coming in for Broken Blade too. So, I mean, Fnatic are not going to get the luxury of sitting comfortably on the sidelines. Way too many tools to catch them out at this point in the game.
Yeah, and it does seem like TSM is looking up towards that top side now. You can see the Scuttle has spawning. Likely Acadian will be heading over there to try to take this out. Some vision starting to get placed, but they have to make sure that they have a clean sweep, that no wards are left alive in this area, because these kind of pockets of vision are going to give Fnatic a lot of confidence that nothing is being started up. You can actually see, this ward outside will show them if they're going to the Baron pit. The pink ward was missed. This ward is here, is also not covered. So really TSM need to get some more pinks, reset, have one inside the Baron pit, one outside the Baron pit, one in that pixel brush that they already have, and that will kind of give you that full secure around that area. Then you want to actually see them moving forward from that area, up into the Fnatic jungle, up in here, trying to push back the vision even further, so Fnatic can't even come forward to check on the Baron pit. That's kind of that secondary step that becomes very, very important.
Absolutely, because if they make a fumble right now, they still have the gold advantage. It will not cost them a fight, most likely, unless Hylissang finds a pick, but it does cost them time. It gives more time for Reckless to approach 3 items. You mentioned it, 3 items to the point where you want to talk about Sivir. Well, he's, you know, a crit cloak and a big completion cost away from hitting that Infinity Edge and really being a massive threat in the coming fight.
And I mean, he has 800 gold in his pockets, so really he's only about 400 and something gold away from actually finishing that IE. We are seeing Nemesis farming very, very well also. So does drop that package, it looks like. Just getting back to lane. But TSM are starting to move up now. This is kind of that next step. They still need to clear out the ward around the Baron pit. They have the pink ward inside the pit, but you need one just outside because you cannot actually cover all areas of the Baron pit and that sneaky ward right against the wall outside it with just one pink.
See if they do it. Sweepers, of course, are on cooldown for now, so at least a little bit of time before Fnatic has to be really scared.
And there's actually no pink in the inventory of TSM right now, so likely that ward will stay around.
Oh, there's going to be the Cocoon. Hylissang now going to be in trouble here. Final chapter comes in. Hylissang alive for now. A lot of members going to be locked up. Hylissang now deleted. Bjergsen on a rampage, but that's the flash of safety. Whippo wants to get something done. Broken Blade on the backside. Whippo now in trouble. Goes gold and buys a bit of time, but he's all but set to fall now. Whippo alive, but taken down in the end. Bjergsen unstoppable. Cadian grabs a kill as well.
And that should be the Baron for TSM. They get some vision there, and it's actually Fnatic that decide, we're going to start the fight. But they started the fight before the IE purchase. They decide to try to take that battle. They're not able to knock down Cadian, and TSM will get the Baron. And a very big gold lead at this point. And now with the 1-3-1, they have the tools they need to potentially close out this game.
I mean, you look at it, it's a masterful performance. You look back on these 2 picks, you think maybe Fnatic have found something, but the Yuumi and the Lucian and now the Aurelia damage is just too much.
Yeah, it's so hard to engage into a Yuumi because if you're piling forward, you're going to get rooted by that ultimate. Bjergsen stepping back, dodging out on the 3rd Q from Whippo, then follows in for the cleanup as Dan on the side gets taken down by Sven, Cadian, and Smoothie. And now TSM have the Baron buff, so we have to see how much can you get done with this Baron buff. Taking it off the map, not enough, but they are 6K ahead. If you can knock down these last 2 outers, if you can crack the inhibitor line, you can really start to kind of put together all those pieces you need to close out this game.
And of course for Fnatic, a 6K deficit, but 1 team fight is all it takes to start to even things up here, but it is by no means an easy road. For now, they're going to try to take total control of this topside jungle, set up to break down those tier 2 towers, push for that inhibitor as you mentioned.
Certainly one bright side though, after that fight, Reckless completed the IE, so he is now on those 3 items, and we are seeing them get closer and closer to that. Cadian, though, gets hooked in.
Is it going to be enough? However, Yuumi trying to buy a bit more time. Final chapter, a lot of members rooted up, but the rest of the team is not here. Reckless and Nemesis untouched on the backside, but all eyes on Fake Bjergsen. Trying to find his way in. Broken Blade going in for a little bit more. Hylissang still alive. They watch the Nico. Pop Blossom comes out. They buy a bit more time. The GA has proc, and Whippo is immediately taking down the double kill for Sven. TSM are looking for a queen sweep. Reckless running for his life. The flash forward from Acadian will not find purchase, but TSM absolutely in advantage state.
Yeah, TSM looking very good at this point. They get 3-4-0 there, and they are still on the map with the Baron buff. They will clean up this top lane turret. They will look for the mid lane tier 2, and they can try to push forward here and knock down an inhibitor tower. But Nemesis and Reckless back out on the map. They've got to be careful.
A lot of damage there. Going to stop the chase in its tracks, but of course enough members left up and alive. That's all of them in this case. Now to push into mid lane as well. A lot of wave clear between the Sivir and the Corki. Will be able to keep those inhibitor towers alive and well, but Acadian has now been caught out. The prowling projectile will offer a good bit of disengage, and the Zoomies will take him out to safety.
Yeah, they are going to be able to get out of there and will reset. A minute and 20 or so left on that Baron buff. Here it is one more time, and again, witness the power of the disengage here from Yuumi. One of the really highly prized parts of this champion. 4-man root from the ultimate. Look at the hitbox on it, it's just enormous. Then Acadian goes into that repel, buying a lot of time. Nico coming across. They turn back and collapse onto Whippo as Broken Blade has zoned out Nemesis and Reckless. Pop Blossom Zonia's buys some time. Fnatic does a nice job of actually dodging away from that, so not getting tagged by the damage. But once the rest of the squad is out, the carries from Fnatic have to retreat, and the Cadian trading his flash with Reckless there is actually very big because now you have the ability to perhaps pile on top of Reckless and knock him down. Sivir, obviously no move block of her own, does rely very heavily on that flash, and one little bit of CC catches him, he could be getting burst down.
And things are just going from bad to worse on the side of Fnatic. A miserable performance from Dan, honestly, has had an incredibly rough game, and Rek'Sai is not a late game champion. Now, normally I'd say the same about the Elise, except the Elise is hella fed, so she can just kill anyone she wants to. So normally I would say, hey, it's probably about even in the late game, but Acadian can just delete people and is also, with the Zhonya's, incredibly hard to lock down in these fights.
I mean, not even when you're almost 5,000 gold ahead, turns out, right? That's a pretty big deal, certainly. But, you know, the one thing for Fnatic you can be really happy about is the base didn't get broken during the Baron buff, right? And you have tons of wave clear. So the pressure becomes now for TSM, they're not going to take an inhibitor unless they get kills and then take it, right? So Fnatic kind of can go a little bit back into turtle mode. You have the IE now completed on Nemesis, so slowly but steadily, they are getting those items. And if you fail to engage, if you fail to dive, Corki and Sivir have the damage to turn around and knock you guys down very quickly. There's no tank. There's no, you know, you're dependent on stopwatches and Zhonya's and, you know, and kind of dodging in and out of the fights. So TSM has to be clean about their execution. Yes, they are certainly in the driver's seat here, but this is by no means a guaranteed win.
And something to note is that for the most part, it's been Fnatic kind of kicking off a lot of these fights as well. TSM just very quick to punish, knowing that they have the advantage. So we'll have to see if they're more confident outside of Acadian to kind of push for a bit more.
Yeah, and we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. Or if TSM wants to sit back and wait for the next Baron. I think that is going to be the call. They don't feel like it is an intelligent choice to try to dive the base. I think that's correct. You know, certainly, like it's just so risky, right?
Yeah, there's no, you're fine. You
Yeah.
have a huge lead. Why risk anything?
And I mean, the thing is, though, you know, if this was G2, they would be diving the base, right? You know, and that's kind of the different thought process. I feel like oftentimes is about how you close out the game. I think this is kind of the more safer, more consistent style of closing out the game that they're looking for. It will again be about setting up vision in this sort of area. And they will be looking to try to take this Baron as it spawns in 1 minute. The Elder will be up in 3, so they will always have that as backup plan as well. But, you know, cracking the base without the Baron buff is so hard for TSM because the wave clear is really, really good between this Corki and Sivir at this point. I mean, Sivir can basically kill a wave with one Boomerang Blade and a Ricochet Auto.
But also important that Fnatic have been locked in their base. They've been kept out of this jungle. A lot of their vision has been denied because when that Baron does come out, Fnatic need to make a choice. They either give it up uncontested or they walk blindly into that jungle.
Yeah, and that is really, really tough to do against this super fed Elise, against a lot of these members on TSM. So we'll see what the call is going to be here. You know, they have 20 seconds, so they can try to, you know, reset one more time and then look to try to walk in as a 5-man squad and hope that they can take whatever comes from TSM. But I would not be surprised if Fnatic just make the call to say, no, you know what, we're going to give it up. We're going to try to defend the base. We're going to try to continue to play for late because, you know, even if you just give up one inhibitor on a Baron, the game's still not over. But it looks like for now they have the package. They are grouping up, and they are going to look to try to slowly move in here as a 5-man squad, see if they can't get control of mid lane, and then utilize that to keep TSM away from the Baron.
And Spooky Ghost does come out as well. Bjergsen taking a lot of poke from Nemesis. The hook does go wide. Dredgeline will not connect, nor will the prowling projectile. So Fnatic a little bit zoned off their own base, actually, in this case. The back comes in, but the TP flank now coming in as well. Reckless immediately going to burn on the hunt, ready to turn this one. Dan going to try to buy a bit more time into Bjergsen, has the GA, but is forced to flash out to safety. Zoomies now come in. Bjergsen will be closer and closer to full health, but a lot of damage from Nemesis. Have to respect the magic damage crits coming in from the Corki.
Yeah, that was a great disengage, and now he's going in.
Fearless, the exhaust immediately comes in now. Lucian has been locked up on the side. Reckless tries to get something done, but the ulti's already out, 90% slow. Bwipo is not in the area. Fnatic need to be careful about taking this fight. The final chapter comes in. Hylissang is down, but Acadian is deleted as well. The 1-for-1 Bwipo going right into the midst of everything. Dan stepping forward, the knockup is there. The pop-off's back. Broken blade, only connecting on Nemesis, but that might be all he needs. Reckless has also been locked up. Buying time with the Zhonya's. Bjergsen needs to find the reset. They need to kill the Sivir. Reckless gonna be taken down by Sven in an instant, but no, Bwipo, can he find the turn? Big damage comes in. It's Cat and Bjergsen versus the world now. Sven up 2, Bwipo needs to find it. It could be his heroic moment, but he's not gonna get the chance. They're gonna break open the base. TSM absolutely dominating the fight.
And will they look to try to end the game here? There is 8 seconds on Hylissang, so I'm not sure if they actually can. They're going to get an inhibitor for sure, but they are looking to end this one. Bwipo has got to clear out the wave as fast as he can.
Final chapter coming in. Bwipo quite tanky, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Hylissang there as well, locking up Bjergsen for now. The Ignite's ticking. Can he get back in? Not the Ignite, but a bit more damage.
TSM's got to leave.
Have to be careful. Bjergsen now backing off. Locked up under tower. Is going to get shut down here.
Nemesis is about to spawn, so is Reckless. They have teleports. They could actually look for this. So you can see them. They're pinging onto the ward. They're going to try to punish TSM.
Prime projectile going to stop them for now. TP now coming in.
Double TP.
Reckless coming in as well. Sven has to be careful. Corki flying forward. The Colin coming down, but Nemesis almost cold in an instant. so much damage on fired back. Acadian knocked up. Hillesang caught the meat grinder. Broken Blade, clutch stun. 2 kills immediately picked off. Fnatic fighting off more than him. Reckless throwing down the lead forward. Reckless is deleted. Acadian finding 2 and Nemesis running for his life. TSM have all the power in the world to end the game. It is only Dan, the so underfed Rek'Sai in this state, just running for his life, holding on to hope. But that might just be all she wrote. No more shots for Fnatic left.
Yeah, TSM can just go for the end here. They have the super minion. It's all up to Nemesis. He needs to try to kill someone off immediately, but I don't think he can do it.
Projectile, lost chapter. Pop Blossom gonna find 2 and pop. Fnatic taken out. It's gonna take a bit more time as the minions crash in, but the TSM win coming through in the end. 0-2 to kick things off, but up against Fnatic, they are finally able to find a win. Sven dancing on him, reminding him what Rift Rivals is all about. It's a little BM, it's a little banter, and it's a TSM victory.
Undefeated in the LEC, undefeated at Rift Rivals till this point. TSM takes down Fnatic, and they have got to be feeling good about that one. Acadian, 7, 2, and 15 on the Elise. Absolutely dominating Dan in the jungle on this one. Certainly a rough performance for him, but TSM fans, something to be very happy about at the end of this one.
Absolutely, and overall just a masterful performance. I gotta say, Acadian, I was skeptical. You know, we saw how good this team was with Grig. I was wondering why they made this decision, but he really did show up. The fumble at the start of the game, I was more worried. After that, the Elise was everywhere. Acadian was exactly where it needed to be, and Fnatic tried to stall, tried to get to that late game, but TSM did not let it happen.
Yeah, certainly didn't, and this is the kind of TSM that people had really been wanting to see. They've been wanting to see a team willing to play aggressive, willing to play up tempo. They certainly have the capability of playing these types of strategies, of playing that type of game. And they were able to showcase it after what had been a very rough tournament for TSM. So certainly something to stand up and cheer about here for TSM fans, and I guess we got a new one.
As a North American, I never doubted them. I can't do it. Fnatic,
I can see the angry Fnatic fans already. They're grouping up.
Obviously a fantastic game. I think back to the drawing board, a rough performance for Dan. I hope people aren't too harsh on him after that one. But
it's his second international game ever.
Yeah, and it's not like he got to play a game on the LEC stage before that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, a confident TSM win. And to hear more about that game, let's send it over to the TSM bot laner and Avali for an interview.
Thanks, guys. Sven, congratulations on the win, picking up the 3rd win for North America. Thank you so much, TSM. I want to ask you, because this looked like a close game at times, what do you think about this gap between North America and EU?
I think the European teams just adapted much better to the change that happened last year when they removed the double sidestone meta. I think they play much more fast-paced, they fight a lot aggressively, and they really push the limits to the max. And any teams are more like cautious, and they don't really take the risks so much. I think the European teams they're just better both fingers, and they have better macro as well.
And it's been a while since you've played many international teams. So playing against some of these EU teams again, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, beating Fnatic is nothing new to me, you know. So I feel in my comfort zone here, but I was pretty disappointed about us getting like smashed by G2 and Origin. It felt really bad. Also, I wanted to beat Perks and Mitty, but that didn't happen. So, but yeah, this tournament is a learning experience for everyone. I think it's good that we get smashed like this because it's an eye opener for NA as a region that we're this bad. So yeah, I mean we can laugh, but we are really bad. And the games that TL and C9 are winning are their opponents are just trolling. And overall, EU came to the tournament, they're actually just trolling in draft and not even like trying half to win. So it feels bad, but it's a good eye opener for us to improve for Worlds.
And then really quick, you have the 2v2s coming up. I believe you're going against C9 first. Thoughts going into that?
Sneaky in lane, Lul?
No sneaky. No sneaky. It's Blabber
shit.
in lane. Any thoughts on Blabber?
I mean, he played a nice Aatrox today. I don't really know. The 2v2 showdown are fun, but I don't really know how to play like the whack shit, like Heimerdinger and stuff. So I think I'm not the best at this kind of stuff. So yeah.
All right, well, wishing you the best of luck with that. Before we hit that, we are going to go to the analyst desk, so guys, take it away.
Thank you, Avali. Thank you, Sven and TSM, for handing the first loss of the summer season to Fnatic, who sit undefeated over in the LEC.
By transitive properties, that
Exactly.
does make TSM the best team in Europe right now.
In the world. He mentions how he wishes he could have gotten that win against Perks and Mithy in the bot lane. Hopefully we'll have that opportunity tomorrow in our best-of-5 relay race. But striking a lot of chords there, I think, in that interview where he talks about some of the disappointment for the NA squads in getting outclassed by the EU teams throughout the tournament. But I think here we have a case, yes, while Dan is in, but a TSM that stepped up in a way that we wanted to see, you know, when they were being considered as perhaps going to MSI.
Yeah, and I think a lot of TSM fans as well have been disappointed in summer because they were expecting the more aggressive plays, the looking for tower dives, taking those chances. Okay, this is what it looks like when you take some of those chances, and they're gonna miss a couple of them. But the philosophy behind their game plan for this game, where they don't run a tank in the front line, they don't have hard engage, they're looking for these outplays, lots of Zonias, lots of plays to be had. All members on TSM were looking to make individual plays.
And I do think that what we actually saw a lot of was Fnatic trying to force fights when their comp wasn't strong enough to do it. And like, this is a perfect example of one of those situations where they don't have Whippo, they're not in the optimal condition, whereas TSM very quick to group and react to how the fight is being set up. And I felt like that enabled them to go toe-to-toe with a lot of Fnatic in the early game. But also you got to remember that we already briefly touched on it. One of the biggest early game strengths that Fnatic has is Broxah. And him not being in this game, I think that we get to highlight the differences in how impactful he is in influencing the early game for Fnatic. So trying to create these early game plays without him showcases how they end up getting exploited every now and then.
Yeah, one thing I noticed with Dan a lot is Dan tries to set up counter ganks a lot, which can look very good if your counter gank is well informed and it actually happens. But if not, then you're just sitting there, and so he falls behind in experience pretty quickly. And Acadian, constantly looking for tower dives, constantly looking for proactive plays, was able to get TSM so far ahead. He had 90-something kill participation
like that,
for the
yeah.
majority of the game, constantly looking to start things for TSM.
At one point, level 11 on the Elise to the level 8 Rek'Sai for Dan, speaking to that experience point that you just made, Kobe. But ultimately, this game turned into a very scrappy, back and forth, skirmish, and even team fight heavy game, which was very exciting to see. Both of these teams kind of pushing the limits. This here will be the game ender, although an extended one, as Fnatic tries to clap back on the revive.
So this is one of those situations where Fnatic know they've got a lot of their item spikes and they want to try and force a fight. Unfortunately for them, the execution is a bit awry, as Hylissang can't quite find the target that he wants. But then when the re-engage come through, things start looking a lot better for Fnatic. But then Broken Blade with a great ultimate on the backline, Sven and Bjergsen staying alive, the main damage dealers for TSM. And because of the mobility that this composition had, just playing through the mid lane with all this space to work with, it just felt like TSM had a lot more liberties to be able to outplay in that fight.
And that one lasted for a good 3 minutes, up and down the mid lane, back and forth on Summoner's Rift. This is the revived TSM coming back from their base after the revived Fnatic had chased Sven halfway down the mid lane, and they finally turn it around. This is the actual game ender, as they're able to get there in time. Yuumi speed boost and Elise chase them down.
And big props to TSM, because while I do think there are opportunities for them to close out this game quicker, you got to remember that they were playing up against the likes of a Sivir and a Corki, who are known for their late game wave clear. And it's also Fnatic, who is one of those teams that just spends a lot of time stalling whenever they have the opportunity to. And you already talked about it, Kobe. With no front line, with no real dive, it gets very difficult to break into the base. So even though they had the Baron, and they often controlled either bot side or top side jungle, unless Fnatic would come to them and face check and they could find a successful pick, it was actually very difficult for TSM to break into the base and finally end that game. But they did find the pick, they did find the fights, and eventually they were able to come out victorious.
And the fights are super exciting because the fights all revolve around these big abilities. Broken Blade, you mentioned, with the big pop blossoms, and Zonia timings are so critical. When you don't have a traditional tank, you have to use these immunities and Elise repel. And that's where you have to rely on the execution.
Right.
I was very happy to see, as the game went on, the execution on these plays for TSM got better and better.
And for me, Sven was one of the players that really stood out in these late game fights. I know a lot of criticism has been going his way, especially from the fans, given that he was once praised as being the best Western bot laner that we have, and coming on to 2SM last year, expectations were very high. So the fact that he's slumping at the beginning of this split, I think this showcased what he is capable of. He had a very solid game, and I can only hope that he continues this level of performance throughout Rift Rivals and for the rest of LCS.
And while there has been a lot of criticism thrown his way, I can attest to the fact that there is no bigger critic of Sven than Sven himself. You saw it there in that interview. That guy demands perfection from himself, and when he doesn't reach it, he's going to try everything in his power to rework himself into that state. Later on, we do have that 2v2 gauntlet, but the squads return to Summoner's Rift tomorrow for the relay race to conclude the tournament. So real quickly, we're going to recap the format for you in that relay race, as Europe got the win coming out of the group stage in the record, they will have the option to respond first in team selection. In other words, NA is going to have to put somebody up onto the table, and the LEC will get to respond with their team pick.
Yes, and if it is TSM, I'm pretty confident Origin will be going up against them once again to allow Mithy and Sven to go at it. So we'll see if Sven can get his revenge up against Mithy, or if Mithy will hold the head-to-head title. And then the other two, I'm not really sure. I think G2 might want some vengeance against Team Liquid, given that they lost to them today.
Yeah, I'm